So this gimbal right here sets the standards for what we should be expecting from gimbals from now on, and that is this. Yeah, it's tracking. And I mean, this could be the best small gimbal under 300 US, and I mean, look at this thing, it's counterweight. It's so cool, we got a lot to get through. So let's get it. What's going on, my 102,000 amazing friends? I hope you're all doing absolutely fantastic. If you're on your own channel, please consider subscribing. That would be absolutely amazing. So today we're actually going to be talking about the Feiyutech Scorp 2 and the Feiyutech Scorp Mini 2 as well. And I do have the original Feiyutech Scorp and the Feiyutech Scorp Pro. So it is really good to sort of compare those to those models because we can see obviously what they actually did when it comes to upgrading these. So first of all, let's get into some of the specs of the Scorp 2 and the Scorp Mini 2. So the Scorp Mini 2 is a 4-in-1 small gimbal. It's designed for small mirrorless cameras, point and shoot cameras, smartphones, and action cameras. And it's a nice 1.3-inch touchscreen that has access to the settings, and it has a built-in AI tracking sensor with gesture control. It has a USB-C port for charging, a follow focus wheel that can be customized, the ability to control certain devices through cables or Bluetooth, or can be controlled through the Feiyutech app, and can also be expanded with extra accessories like a follow focus motor, a fill light, and more. It also has a total payload of 1.2 kilos. All this in a very light package of 787 grams, and this currently costs 269 US for the standard pack, or $299 for the extra kit. Now the Scorp 2 is the larger brother of the Mini 2 and features pretty much everything the Mini 2 has, but a couple more things such as a built-in kickstand, an A/B focus button, a Q20 mount for the RE rosette accessory, and has a larger payload of 2.5 kilos, which will give you that ability to mount larger cameras or lenses. The Scorp 2 will only cost you around $369 for the standard or $399 US for the added kit. Now obviously with those specs we do have to talk about that AI tracker, but first of all I do want to talk about the differences between the Scorp 1 and the Scorp 2. So just quickly, the differences between the original Scorp and the Scorp 2, you can see they are pretty much the same. The wheels are slightly different. You do have a slightly different toggle on the Scorp 2, which is kind of cool. Has a little bit better feedback than this one. The screen's in slightly different position. You do obviously have that AI tracker in the new Scorp as opposed to the original. And this control arm can actually be taken off and be mounted vertically, which is kind of cool, whereas the original, you couldn't do that. But other than that, they are pretty much identical when it comes to the build. Then the original Scorp Mini, I don't have that, but I've got the Scorp Mini 2, which obviously the AI tracker, same thing there, same thing here, and you do have the phone mount as well, or you can actually have this, which is a counterbalance if you do have slightly heavier cameras. But that's pretty much the differences between the original Scorp and the Scorp 2 and the Scorp Mini 2. So this is probably the moment that you guys have been waiting for, and that happens to come down to this AI tracking, and I really, really like it. It is super responsive. I could literally walk around, come over here, grab a whole bunch of things, and I can just be a little bit more creative because of this tracker. This just allows me to do so much more movement. I could use this as a BTS videographer if I really wanted to. But it is really snappy and really responsive. And if you do want to stop it, then you just do this symbol and walk side to side, do whatever you need to do, and do the OK symbol again to actually activate it, which is really cool. But I did actually notice if you do the OK symbol again, it actually cancels it, which is kind of cool, which is perfectly fine. You still do the OK symbol. This just opens up the possibilities of doing so much more than just having a static camera, and especially if you don't have someone to shoot content for you and you want to be a little bit more interactive, this is perfectly fine. But let's go outside, let's test it with Amber, walk in front of it, see what it does, see if it gets confused. But if obviously there are any sort of auto-focusing issues, that would come down to more so your camera and not the gimbal. As long as it's tracking you, the gimbal has done its job. So let's go outside. So even if I walk through the frame, it's still obviously just going to track her, which is really cool. Then Amber will do the symbol to stop the tracking, and it's perfectly fine. She can walk out of frame, I can go again, and yeah, I mean, it seems pretty reliable, especially when it comes to that distance. I think the biggest thing as well is that it is tracking slightly off center. So it looks like the center of the camera point is right here, but the center of the tracking is directly in front. So That kind of sucks. It'd be nice if it was here. I can see the camera is slightly off to the side. Now, one of the most interesting things about the Mini 2 is this right here. So essentially this is a counterbalance that you can actually add weights onto this side, which will actually allow you to obviously have heavier camera setups. Now, the payload of this is actually 1.2 kilos, which should suit a standard Sony Alpha camera and a relatively small lens. So this can actually get away with quite a lot. And that counterbalance just allows you to, attach it properly. Otherwise, it will sort of lean to one side. So that is a really good option to have, and you can actually adjust the amount of counterbalance weights you can put onto the side as well. Now, don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure you should be able to buy this on the website itself as well, so you can add it to any other gimbal that you're purchasing from Feiyutech, or I guess any other gimbal that you've already got. Now, one of the most interesting features that I loved about the Scorp Original is that if you did press the F1 button on the left-hand side, it goes into FPV mode, but FPV mode in vertical, which obviously is very useful for TikTok, Instagram, YouTube Shorts, all those kind of things. But this time you have to press the button twice, because on the original, if you accidentally tapped it once, it would go into this mode. And there were a few times that I did tap it once accidentally, because that's where my thumb actually rests, and obviously you don't want that. But your screen gets in the way a little bit in this mode, but that is the biggest pro about this version right here, the Scorp 2, is that L bracket can actually come off, and then you can actually attach this bottom plate to the side of the L bracket and mount it vertically without having to take the camera off, mount it on a cage vertically, and then it just ends up being easier and quicker and more versatile to how you're actually going to be mounting your specific camera to the gimbal. Before we go outside and test to see what these gimbals can actually do when it comes to stability, let's talk about who they're for. Now, the Mini 2 obviously is a smaller gimbal, whereas the Scorp 2 is the larger, bigger brother with a 2.5 kilo payload. So you would imagine that that's more suited towards FX3, A7 IV, A7S III, the larger mirrorless cameras with bigger lenses. This one has a 1.2 kilo payload, so I've got the ZV-E1 on here, smaller lens, but it does have a cage as well. But you're probably looking at, APS-C cameras and smaller setups all round, even if you have mobile phone, action camera, those kind of people. But at the end of the day, if you do have a small camera, maybe go for the Scorp 2 anyway. Just in case you do end up putting heavier lenses or buy bigger cameras, then you can put the bigger cameras on there as well. But I mean, if you just solely have action cameras, your smartphone, and maybe an APS-C camera, the Mini 2 is probably your go. But let's go outside and test to see what these things can do. So, I mean, overall, when it comes to the stability of this gimbal, it really depends on what camera system you've got on here, how well balanced it is, and obviously how you're actually going to be walking or running, or what you're actually going to be doing with this gimbal. But I was literally running in these tests, because obviously running tests really stress tests what kind of stability algorithms is in this gimbal, and it does extremely well. I'm extremely happy, and it certainly does do the job. Now, I don't really want to dive real deep into, what's inside the menu settings, what you can do through the app, but I do have to say that you can connect your camera through the USB-C. So if you've got two USB-C ports on here, which you can control the follow focus and obviously your camera as well. And what they usually do is put a compatibility list on their website. So when this is live, obviously check the compatibility if you can connect it to your camera. So that allows you to obviously hit that record button on the actual gimbal itself, or take a photo, whatever, however you want it to work. But it is quite handy when you can record through this back button, so you don't actually have to physically touch the camera. But there will be other channels that will probably dive deeper into the menu settings. Go check them out. I want to know how this actually performs, in the field, and just how I would use it. I don't get too technical when it comes to, the gimbals and all the settings and stuff. I just want this to stabilize my footage, and that's pretty much it. So look, overall, I think Feiyutech have done a fantastic job. That AI tracking is really handy, especially if you are going to, put it down and film yourself, which a lot of us are actually filming ourselves when it comes to BTS or, this kind of content. It really does help having that tracking there. But other than that, everything else is designed well. I love the ergonomics of this thing when it comes to all the other gimbals. I think they've done a really good job, and yeah, I definitely commend them for that. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, obviously give it a thumbs up. The link will be in the description below if you do want to check these two out. So if you do click through that link, you will get a little bit of a discount, which is really cool. So thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one. All right, let's get it.